The Pied Piper of Hamelin. A very long time ago, the town of Hamelin in Germany was invaded by bands of rats, the likes of which had never been seen before, nor ever will be seen again. They were black creatures which ran boldly in broad daylight through the streets and swarmed all over the houses, so that the people at last could not put hand or foot down anywhere without touching one. When dressing in the morning, they found the rats in their breeches and petticoats, in their pockets and in their boots. And when they wanted a morsel to eat, the ferocious horde had swept away everything from cellar to garret. The night time was even worse. As soon as the lights were out, these untiring nibblers set to work, and everywhere, in the ceilings, in the floors, in the cupboards, at the doors, there was a chase and a rummage, and so furious a noise of gimlets, pincers, and saws that a deaf man could not rest for even 1 hour. Neither cats nor dogs, nor poison nor traps, not prayers nor candles burned to all the saints. Nothing did any good. The more rats they killed, the more came. But one Friday there appeared in town a man with a queer face, who played the bagpipes and sang this refrain: "Who shall see? This is he, the rat catcher." He was a tall, gawky fellow, dry and bronzed, with a crooked nose, a long rat-tail mustache, two great piercing and mocking eyes, under a large felt hat, set off by a scarlet cock's feather. He was dressed in a green jacket with a leather belt and orange breeches, and on his feet were sandals fastened by thongs passed around his legs in the gypsy fashion. That is how he may be seen to this day, painted on a window of the Cathedral of Hamelin. He stopped in the great marketplace before the town hall, turned his back to the church, and went on with his music, singing, "Who lives shall see. This is he, the rat catcher." The town council had just assembled to consider once more this plague of Egypt, from which no one could save the town. The stranger sent word to the councilors that if they would make it worth his while, he would rid them of all their rats before nightfall. "Then he is a sorcerer," cried the citizens with one voice. "We must beware of him." The chief town councilor, who was considered clever, reassured them. He said, "Sorcerer or no, if this bagpiper speaks the truth, it was he who sent us this horrible vermin he wants to rid us of today for money. Well, we must learn to catch the devil in his own snares. You leave it to me." "Leave it to the town councilor," said the citizens to one another. And the stranger was brought before them. "Before night," he said, "I shall have dispatched all the rats in Hamelin, if you will but pay me a shilling a head." "A shilling a head!" cried the citizens. "But that will come to millions of thalers." The town councilor simply shrugged his shoulders and said to the stranger, "A bargain. The rats will be paid for 1 shilling a head, as you ask." The bagpiper announced he would begin that very evening when the moon rose. He added that the inhabitants should, at that hour, leave the streets free and content themselves with looking out of their windows at the pleasant spectacle that was passing. When the people of Hamelin heard of the bargain, they too exclaimed, "A shilling a head? But this will cost us a deal of money." "Leave it to the town councilor." The town councilor, with a malicious air, said. And the good people of Hamelin repeated, "Leave it to the town councillor." Towards evening, the bagpiper reappeared in the marketplace. As at first, he turned his back to the church, and the moment the moon rose on the horizon, the bagpipes resounded. It was a slow, caressing sound at first, then more and more lively and urgent, so sonorous and piercing that it penetrated the furthest alleys and retreats of the town. Soon, from the bottom of the cellars, the top of the garrets, from under all the furniture, from on all the nooks, all the corners of the houses, came out the rats, searching for the door, flinging themselves into the street, and trip, 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 they began to run and file towards the front of the town hall, so squeezed together that they covered the pavement like waves of a flooded torrent. When the square was quite full, the bagpiper faced about and, still playing briskly, turned towards the river that runs at the foot of the walls of Hamelin. Arriving there, he turned around. The rats were following. "Hop, hop!" he cried, pointing with his finger to the middle of the stream, where the water whirled and was drowned down as if through a funnel. And hop, hop, without hesitating, the rats took the leap, swam straight to the funnel, plunged in head foremost, and disappeared. The plunging continued thus without ceasing till midnight. At last, dragging himself with difficulty, came a big rat, white with age, who stopped on the bank. It was the king of the band. "Are they all there, friend Blanchett?" asked the bagpiper. "They are all there," replied the white rat. "And how many were there?" 990,999. "Well reckoned, well reckoned. Then go and join them, old sire." And the old white rat sprang in his turn into the river, swam to the whirlpool, and disappeared. When the bagpiper had thus concluded his business, he went to the bed at his inn, and for the first time in 3 months, the people of Hamelin slept quietly through the night. The next morning at 9 o'clock, the bagpiper appeared at the town hall, where the town council awaited him. "All your rats took a jump into the river yesterday," he said to the councillors, "and I guarantee that not one of them comes back. They were 990,999 at a shilling a head. Reckon." "Let us reckon the heads first. 1 shilling a head is 1 head the shilling. Where are the heads?" The piper did not expect this treacherous stroke. He paled with anger, and his eyes flashed fire. "The heads," he cried. "If you care about them, go and find them in the river." "So," replied the chief counselor, "you refuse to honor the terms of your agreement. We ourselves could refuse you all payment, but you have been of use to us, and we will not let you go without recompense." With this, he offered him 50 thaler. "Keep your recompense for yourself," replied the piper proudly. "If you do not pay me, I will be paid by your heirs." Thereupon he pulled his hat down over his eyes, went hastily out of the town hall, and left the town without speaking to a soul. When the people of Hamelin heard how the affair had ended, they rubbed their hands, and with no more scruple than their own town councillors, laughed about the bagpiper, who, they said, had been caught in his own trap. But what made them laugh above all, was his threat of himself getting paid by their heirs. Ha! They wished they could only have such creditors for the rest of their lives. Next day, which was Sunday, they went gaily to church, thinking that afterward they would at least be able to eat some good things, now that the rats had not tasted them. They never suspected the terrible surprise that awaited them on their return home. No children anywhere. They had all disappeared. Our children, where are our poor children? Was the cry that was soon heard in all the streets. Then, through the east gate of the town, came three little boys who cried and wept. And this is the story they told. While the parents were at church, a wonderful music had sounded in the streets. Soon, all the little boys and all the little girls who had been left at home, attracted by the magic sounds, had gone out to the great marketplace. There they found the piper playing his bagpipes. Then the stranger started to walk quickly, and they had followed, running, singing, and dancing to the sound of the music, as far as the foot of the mountain, which one sees on entering Hamelin. At their approach, the mountain had opened a little, and the bagpiper had gone in with them, after which it had closed again. Only the three little ones who told of the adventure had remained outside, as if by a miracle. One was lame and could not run fast enough. The second, who had left the house in haste, one foot shod, the other bare, had hurt himself against a big stone and could scarcely walk. The third had arrived on time, but, while hurrying to go in, had struck so violently against the wall of the mountain that he fell backward at the moment it closed upon his comrades. Hearing this story, the parents redoubled their lamentations. They ran with pikes to the mountain and searched till evening to find the opening through which their children had disappeared without success. At last, the night falling, they returned desolate to the town of Hamelin. But the most unhappy was the town councillor who had bargained with the piper, for he had lost 3 boys and 2 girls, and to crown all, the people of Hamelin overwhelmed him with reproaches, forgetting that the day before they had agreed with him. What had become of these unfortunate children? The parents always hoped they were not dead, and that the piper, who certainly must have come out of the mountain, would have taken them with him to his own country. That is why, for several years, they sent in search of them to different countries, but no one ever found a trace of the poor little ones. It was not till much later that anything was to be heard. About 150 years after the event, when there were no longer any fathers, mothers, brothers, or sisters of that day left, there arrived one evening in Hamelin some merchants of Bremen returning from the east, who asked to speak with the citizens. They told how in crossing Hungary they had sojourned in a mountainous country called Transylvania, where the inhabitants spoke only German, while all around them nothing was spoken but Hungarian. These people also declared that they came from Germany, but they did not know how they chanced to be in this strange country. Now, said the merchants of Brenham, these Germans cannot be other than the descendants of the lost children of Hamelin. The people of Hamelin did not doubt it, and since that day they have regarded it as certain that the Transylvanians of Hungary are their countryfolk, whose ancestors as children were taken from Hamelin by the bagpiper. There are more difficult things to believe than that.